and welcome to Nurse Table Talk. I'm Nurse Julie, and today I have a special guest. His name is Ben Clark, and he is an insurance broker, and he is with a company called Health Markets located in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hi, Ben.
Well, hello, Miss Julie. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here today.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you the invite. Excited.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited too. But Ben is going to provide us with an overview of Health Markets and then share information about the products that he represents. And just so you know, I am not getting paid or sponsored by his company. I just happen to love his products. Let's get started. And Ben, maybe you can tell us a little bit about you and about your company.
Yeah, sure. So we'll start. So Health Market. So it's a national insurance agency. So we're licensed in 49 of the 50 states to represent multiple product lines of personal insurance. So that's your health insurance, life insurance, supplemental benefits, Medicare, prescription drug, Medicare supplement, Medicare Advantage plans. And so we can work both with members under 65 and on the individual marketplace, ACA, those that aren't eligible for group health insurance plans. We can also work with on the under 65 market, kind of those small employers, because a lot of people that we work with are self-employed or have their own businesses, or they're not eligible for group benefits. We also have access to products and carriers that we can work with small companies. So think less than 50 employees. So we have access to do larger, but really because our company's kind of been built on that personal relationship. Those companies that are 25, 30, 40 employees are great, small business group insurance that we can offer as well. And then there's kind of that natural progression that you work with somebody on the individual insurance, they turn 65, transition to Medicare, and they got all the questions with all the different parts and plans and so on and so forth. And we can kind of crosswalk our clients right over into that process to help with Medicare as well. And so being as, when we say the broker, that's more of, I kind of jokingly say that's kind of like a buzzword, right? In the insurance, oh, you're a broker. It's just a fancy way to say, look, like we have Health Markets is the agency, and I can go back into the vault and I can pull all of these different carriers and products and companies off the shelf. So I am not an agent and with Health Markets, we're not an agent that only has, one product or one carrier or one specific type. That we're trying to say, hey, this is the best fit, and it's not the best fit because it's the only carrier we have, right? It's this based on our conversation. Here's the options that we have available, and we can present solutions that are much more holistic for consumers based on their needs, what they're looking for, the area, products and carriers that are available, where they live, right? So, and then for me, I've been with Health Market since 2008, 17 years, I think at this point. It's crazy to kind of think through that. So I started in November of 2008 was the first piece of business that I wrote. And no, the first piece of business I wrote was not on myself. I was like the fourth or fifth person because I was like, I don't need insurance. I'm young and healthy, right? That was kind of the thought process. And then you start meeting with people and you're kind of like, man, that would really stink to have all this out of pocket. If I didn't have insurance, maybe I should, and kind of go down that route. So I think mathematically was at 16, 17 years or be 17 years, I guess. And then, of that, probably 15 years and in leadership. So I have a team of 35, 36 agents. The mostly, kind of my hub is mostly East Tennessee, kind of that Knoxville, East Tennessee area. But COVID and technology, I've got agents in Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Middle Tennessee. I've got agents in all the way as far far west as Alaska. So one of my new agents is in Alaska as well. So we got them all covered.
Things that I've run across being a nurse is people will ask me about insurance, and I'm not the expert. That's why you're here. When they are transitioning, like you're establishing a relationship with your clients, you're getting to know them, you're helping them transition with their needs, whether you say they start off on the Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, exchange. And then, like you said, they transition to Medicare. Well, then, they all of a sudden, if they aren't working with a broker such as yourself, they just say, okay, I'm going to call the health insurance directly. And then they get a licensed agent on the line. What's the difference of them doing that versus talking to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that a lot. So the products that if you call directly into, a big carrier, and that carrier is going to sell you the same product that I have access to, right?
Okay.
The difference with working with like a broker such as us at Health Markets is not only do we have, say, for example, United Healthcare, but we also have Humana. I also have access to Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We also have access to Centene. We also have access to Molina. We've got multiple different carriers and products. Whereas if you're calling directly to the company, they're going to be pretty much, hey, this is why our product and our company is the best. And so you're calling and this is the only one that you're going to get. Doesn't mean that that's a bad option, right? Because you may work with a broker and inevitably go with, that plan. The number one question I get from clients is this really the best plan for my situation? Because Right. And and truthfully, if you've called into, the 800 number and you get somebody who's certified or licensed, right, this is the best plan so that we can get your sale made today. And most of the time, without getting too far into the weeds, most of the time those call-in numbers, they're licensed agents, but they're getting paid per, for the sale. Right then. The difference is if, brokers, the big thing about insurance, right, is, and I'm pretty candid, I probably have told you and read this as well. Like yes, I get paid when you enroll in a plan, but I also get paid every month that you keep the policy. And so for an agent, I'm going to get paid more and longer if you keep the policy in place for years, right? Versus if you're calling into an 800 number, sure, you're going to get a licensed broker, but they got, base income. And then here's that one-time enrollment compensation. So it's more incentive to let me purchase this plan today versus I know that if you purchase the plan, yes, I'm going to get paid, but to keep getting paid, I need to service that. So it's going to make sure that what you have and what's available on the front end. I think is a big difference.
Right. So you're listening to your client and you're matching with the company, with the needs that the client is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. And then you want to keep that client so that, you're helping them through the years. I mean, you're establishing that relationship.
Yeah. And one of the things that, we teach, and I take all of my clients really through this process as well. And I coach and train with all of my team. And what we do at Health Markets is we call it our fact finding process, or whether it's the discovery series or, but fact finding. So you're getting some, kind of I'll call it like the 3 to 4 levels, right? First thing is going to get your basic demographic information, birthdays, where you live, kind of income related, that type situation. Then you get really into the needs. You tell me about your current plan. What do you like? What do you don't like? How do you typically use it? And we start going a little bit deeper. Tell me about family history, parents, grandparents, kids, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, like what has been their health history? And people think, well, why is that important? For me, I think it's very important because it helps you as the consumer kind of personalize, well, I know somebody who had XYZ condition or XYZ diagnosis, or they use the insurance in this way. This is how that person dealt with, not having the right benefits and what it meant if they did have a good plan in place, right? So it allows them to almost kind of personalize that. And then we kind of go even more deeper in that discovery, kind of asking, from a financial standpoint, how things would if something happened, how long could you manage financially, and some of those questions, and make people think a little bit more than just what's my copay, what's my deductible, what's my premium, because if health insurance, a lot of times, is people think of it in that fame. How much is it going to cost me on a monthly basis? How much is it going to cost me at the doctor? And then how much is it going to cost me at the hospital? That's really what I'm most concerned with. But the reality insurance, it's going to make sure the insurance company is going to make sure doctors, hospitals, right, they get their compensation and they get paid. The difference is if you have to actually use the insurance and you're not able to work, or you're having to go see, more doctors, making more trips. Now all of a sudden that money's got to come from somewhere, right? How does your insurance kind of work in conjunction with that? And are there products that can help fill those kind of missing gaps? And I think my job and our role, what we try to do at Health Markets, is educate consumers on, hey, this is how insurance works. Here's some areas that it's missing or lacking, and these are some gaps that you may have in your coverage. And here's how we have some additional products that we could put together. So now you get kind of this complete corporate style of benefits, specifics and tailored directly to your needs.
Right. You did that with me when I first moved to Tennessee.
Yeah.
I was not on Medicare at that point, but I had some supplemental insurance to offset my major plan until I got to where, I was able to get on Medicare. And those supplements were great. It takes away that little nagging worry in the back there.
Yeah. That little piece of mind, you're like, oh man, because I think that's a lot of people. They get, I have insurance. Well, I talk to a lot of clients that will say, they got insurance from their spouse's work or whatever, but it's not any good. Well, and I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, it costs me a lot if I go. Well, what would you typically go for? It's like, well, if I'm sick, instead of going to the doctor because I've had this nagging pain or this growth on my back, I don't know what it is, it's like, instead of just like, well, we'll just see if it goes away. This isn't normal. Let me go get it checked out, and going and doing that versus saying, well, it costs too much to go, so I'm just not going to go. Right. And so to your point, knowing that like, hey, I've got backing in the event something happens. I've got benefits that are put in place that are going to really be personalized, specific for me to cover my needs, my scare, my wants, and the fears that I may have, that type situation, right? And the person that helped you put that in place is doing it in a way that's, custom tailor fitting. Hey, you said this, here's a plan that fits that. You said this, you're fearful of this, here's a plan that fits that, right? Versus, hey, I want a plan that's the lowest out of pocket, et cetera, calling into an 800 number, and here's the plan that we have based on that.
Well, one other thing that I have found that people, I think, that I've learned from people, family members, friends, whatever, they have a health insurance plan. Like you said, it might not be the best fit for them, but sometimes they're not looking at it to kind of review, like, do I have? They're just assuming that plan, they've had it for 5 years. They haven't really called anybody. They haven't looked at it. They just assume, well, I'm going to find out when it's not working for me. Instead of calling and being proactive, they're going to wait till the doctor tells them something, and then all of a sudden, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Right? Well, and some of that too is because, health insurance, it definitely can be confusing, right? And especially for the average consumer, you're looking at health insurance maybe once a year, right? That's during the individual annual enrollment period, or you're on your spouse's company plan and you're looking at it during the company's open enrollment plan, right? And especially if it's during like a group benefits and it's during that enrollment, it's 2 weeks, and so, but that's the only time that you really look into it. Outside of those instances, you think about your insurance and how you use it, right? If it's good or not when you're using it. My kid got diagnosed with something. And then you start going to the doctor and you start receiving these bills and you're like, oh man, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, right? Or this is why it's much more affordable on a monthly basis. This is, that type of scenario. For an agent, right, or a broker, I talked to this morning. I had 2 different conversations this morning, almost 10 people this week. And that's a normal kind of routine. So it's a daily type of conversation that I have. So we'll use the doctor. When you go to the doctor, it's the first time that they tell you of something. You're like, man, the doctor knows so much. Well, they've been practicing medicine and they've talked to hundreds of people, right, that week. It's very easy for them and very common for, you were a nurse, right? It's very easy. You know a lot about the medicine and what to do, what not to do because you were around it. And so you would have neighbors and friends when their kid had a cough or cold, they'd call up Julie because, well, you're around hey, what do you know? When my kid gets an earache, I need to find a nurse that can help me out, that somebody knows, right? To know what to go pick up at CVS. But, when it comes to my medical insurance and my family's insurance, I'm just, 800 number, that's probably going to be sufficient,
Yeah. And that person could say, yeah, are there any plans out there that has, access to, a nurse or a nurse case manager or something? I mean, that could be a question that they could ask you, right, Ben? And then you can sift through all the companies and find what might be appropriate for them.
Right. And then, for me being around long enough, I've experienced a lot from customer side of it. Married and have 2 kids, it allows me to be able to speak to a lot of those things. And so when you ask questions about family history, how they use it, things like this, do you travel, etc. And when you have those conversations, well, hey, have you been at the beach with your kids and something happened and they got sick, and inevitably you're like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Right? It's like, yeah, been there, done that. Hey, right. So I know hey, this is the plan that we have, and this is exactly how I called this Teledoc feature. Yeah. It's a great, and then Teledoc, right? They call in, you're able to talk to a doctor within 30 minutes. You never have to leave, because that's, especially if you're traveling, you got no idea. You're like, I know the beach. I don't know what doctor's good here. Right. You don't know people to ask what hospital, right? You maybe go to Google, but in the time that you search to find a location or whatever, you could call into the Teledoc feature on your insurance, and they could have a licensed doctor practitioner call you. This is what happened. My kid swallowed 1.5 gallons of sand. They're like, what do you recommend? And they're like, okay, you could do this and this. And then they're saying, where are you located? You tell them where you're located. I'm going to call in this medication. It's going to be at this CVS. It's 2 miles from where you're at.
Right.
And now you can, so those are things that having an experienced licensed broker and a licensed agent can kind of, hey, did you know that you could use this? Having to either figure it out, right? Or not knowing that that's something available.
Right. Ben, do you have like a 1-800 number? Like you said, you have agents that you have in certain areas of the country. Mm-hmm. You could refer somebody to you if they contacted you, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you contact me directly, for my career, I got personal relationships to agents all across the country. You could also go, so you can find us online, just healthmarkets.com. Okay. And then there's 2 sections, right? So in healthmarkets.com, you can say, hey, somebody could watch this video and they're like, man, that Ben guy, that sounds like a career I want to do. And then there's the, hey, I want to be an agent. And then there's the, hey, I've got questions about insurance. And then you can search, right? You just put in your zip code and then it'll pull up. Right. It'll pull up, hey, in 37932, here's the people that are closest to me. Right. Okay. And you can find directly from there as well.
Well, that's really good information. So I'm glad I brought that up. Do you have any other questions that you want to talk about?
Think of it from the standpoint of, this is somebody that's, a kind of a partnership, and it allows that opportunity to kind of grow through the years, just like you would with kind of any of those other big decisions, your doctor, your dentist, your, maybe your financial planner. I kind of think of those those mindsets, and you can have that access with an insurance broker as well.
Is there anything else that you want to add to the video, or do you think we've accomplished it? Gave everybody an overview of what you think is sufficient, and then they can reach out to Health Markets for further information?
No, I think we've touched on a lot. The only thing I would, just maybe add is right, like with Health Markets, or just in general, right? Every year there's open enrollment periods. And then obviously throughout the year, there's what's known as special enrollment periods. And so this is if you get married, if you move, if your doctor changes, if you have a change of income, right? There's different scenarios that you have access to have a special election or special enrollment period. And having a broker or an agent that has access to, number one, multiple products and companies, but then access to, a large agency. So Health Markets is a valuable resource and business partner for me, that I can get, that they are keeping me informed of what's going on in the industry, so that way I know, like when a client calls in, how can we get you taken care of for insurance for next month versus saying, man, your situation kind of stinks, suck it up, we can change it 12 months from now. You know what I mean? Having an agent that has access to knowledge to know, like, man, that does stink. Let me see what we have access to, kind of see if there's an option that you can work with, versus just kind of being like, this is what's available. Right.
Right. And that's what makes a broker who handles multiple products has more access than calling the companies directly.
People that are in those that are helping you make those decisions, you create a relationship, and that's a relationship that you can have for a long time. You can have that in the insurance space, right? With a broker that has multiple carriers and multiple products, can work both under 65 group health insurance as well as Medicare. And that allows you to know that, okay, this is not just a relationship, like a transaction, as I call it. Like, I'm just going to purchase my insurance today. Because if you call an 800 number, you purchase your insurance, it solves it for that issue. But next year, when you have questions, or 6 months from now, you got questions in your policy, you call in, you're not getting the same person.
Exactly.
Right. So you're not going to get the same person. They may have, if you're from East Tennessee, you're going to have a different dialect. We say things a little bit different in East Tennessee, right? You're learning that one. Yes, ma'am. And so you're like, well, the first person I called, they understood my Southern twang. This person, they don't understand what I'm saying, versus, you've established a relationship with that agent, and they're going to follow up, and you have those questions. There's somebody you can reach out to, text, call, email, right? That type of situation. I think it really, like, think of it from the standpoint of, this is somebody that's, a kind of a partnership, and it allows that opportunity to kind of grow through the years, just like you would with kind of any of those other big decisions, your doctor, your dentist, your, maybe your financial planner. I kind of think of those mindsets, and you can have that access with an insurance broker as well.
Right. It's one-stop shopping with each person, but it's all combined. You have a plan. Yep. It makes people feel good to have a plan, to see where they're going. So they're not having to think about it. They don't have to worry about it, and they're all set,
Yep.
So, well, thank you, Ben, for being here today and being on Nurse Table Talk. And we'll be in touch. If there's any other topics that you feel that you want to talk about or share with our viewers, please let me know, and come back and see us again.
Hey, I'd love to. Like I told you before, I love hearing myself talk. That's what my team tells me all the time. Any of your subscribers and followers, if they've got additional questions that come up, right? And maybe it's a specific topic, I'd be more than willing to come back and do, specific topic training.
Having you here would be great. So thanks again. Thanks for coming in.
All right. So take care.
You too. Bye now.
Nurse Table Talk. Save time, save money, be informed. Thanks for watching.